It's many, many decades since the Shoah already. And to a great extent, the people of the Shoah are no longer with us, either the perpetrators nor the victims. And therefore, it's the judgment of heaven, which to us is unseen, that governs in such situations. But I mentioned when I spoke about Pesach, the vision of the valley of the dry bones of Yechezkel. That vision haunts the Jewish people through all of our generations. We always see the valley of the dry bones. And in our time, for instance, trips to Auschwitz become almost obligatory for the next generation. But Auschwitz really is a museum today, and museums, no matter how well done they are difficult to tell us such a story of such magnitude. And also, they don't explain how, why, what, where, because it's impossible to do so. So Yom Hashoa is always meant to leave us with more questions than answers. It can be transformed into a reservoir of faith. It can also be a disheartening place of doubt. Therefore, it really depends what we make of it. How do we view it? How do we put it into a perspective of our own lives? And that the fact that the Jewish people has arisen from the valley of dry bones has resurrected itself in a fashion that no one imagined would be possible. That's one side of the ledger. The other side of the ledger is that a civilization, a Jewish civilization that existed for millennia and was the factory of Jewish creativity and Jewish greatness for centuries on end, was just snuffed out. It took 1,000 years to build, was destroyed in 5. There's a lesson in that too. Destruction is much quicker and easier to accomplish than creation and achievement. But we at least attempt to remember. And really, memory is the only bridge that we have. It's the only way that somehow some meaning can be attached to the horror that occurred. And therefore, it's not just that we remember that 6 million of our brethren were done to death. We also remember what European Jewry was. We remember its heritage. We remember its greatness. And it gives us something to emulate and something to gain inspiration from. So it's a very meaningful time. It's a meaningful day, and it's a meaningful event. And I'm certain that we will all grow and be enhanced from it, as Rabbi Goldrich pointed out. Hafoch bo v'hafoch bo dekule bo. All of Jewish life and all of Jewish history lies within it. And from it, we should gain strength and comfort and creativity and the will to go on and to build and to be from those that are the builders and not the destroyers, the positive people, not the negative people, the hopeful ones, and not those who are despondent and depressed. So on this occasion, I echo the words of Rabbi Levi, Libi b'mizrach v'anochi b'sof ma'arav. But I'm glad I could be with you at least on this technological marvel. You have to wonder, why did the Lord invent Zoom? That's why. So that we could be together and benefit one from another. May the memory of the righteous be a blessing for us and something that we will attempt to emulate in our own lives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Wein. What I would like to do right now is to do the Kel Malei Rachamim together with Moshe will lead, and then maybe I'll share one story that I heard, that I took inspiration from. I heard from my father, and then we're gonna open it up. If there's anybody here from our congregants, anybody here who wants to share a short message or a story, so you could motion it, and then we'll open up your microphone so that everyone will be able to hear it. But we're going to first do the Kel Malei Rachamim with Moshe, and then I'll share a short story, and then we'll open it up for other people as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you're on, Moshe.
Okay. Since we do not say Kaddish, and in Tfilot Yizkor, when individuals say Yizkor for their individual parents, whoever else, there is in the Rinat Yisrael, which is our formal Machzor, a prayer which is called Yizkor L'chalalei HaShoah. I think it is something very similar to the Kina, to what we generally also do on Tisha B'Av. And before we say Kel Malei Rachamim, I just go through that, if it's okay.
Yes, that's okay. Just please move a little bit to the left so that everyone can see you in the middle of the screen. Yes, a little bit more, a little bit more. Excellent. Now we see you.
Okay. יזכור אלוהים את כל הנשמות של קהילות בית ישראל בגולת אירופה שהועלו על מוקד בשנות השואה תש"ה. 6 מיליון אנשים ונשים, ילדים וילדות, בחורים ובתולות, זקן וטף, שנהרגו ושנטבחו באכזריות איומה ונרצחו ברצח המונים במקומות מגוריהם, בערים, בעיירות ובכפרים, ויתרם הובלו כצאן לטבע למחנות הריכוז ונספו במיתות משונות ונוראות, ונשרפו לאפר בכבשני האש של מחנות ההשמדה האיומים בגרמניה, בפולין ובשאר הארצות, בידי עם המרצחים בגרמניה, בפולין ובשאר הארצות, בידי עם המרצחים בגרמניה עם עוזריו, הרוצחים משאר העמים, שהיו בעצה אחת להשמיד ולהרוג ולאבד את העם היהודי ולמחות את זכר היהדות ולכלות כל אשר בשם ישראל יקרא. אל נקמות שופט הארץ, זכור נא את נחלי הדם שנשפך כמים, דמי אבות ובנים, אמהות ועולליהם, רבנן ותלמידיהם, והשב גמול שבעתיים לצורי עמך. שוועת שמע ישראל שזעקו הלקוחים למוות, אל תדום, ואנקת המאוינים תעלה לפני כיסא כבודך, לנקום במהרה בימינו לעינינו את נקמת דם בניך ובנותיך הקדושים והטהורים שלא זכו לבוא לקבר ישראל, ככתוב, כי דם עבדיו יקום ונקם ישיב לצריו וכיפר אדמתו עמו. אמן. סלם.
Amen.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המציא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את כל הנשמות של 6 מיליוני היהודים חללי השואה באירופה שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו ושנספו על קידוש השם בידי המרצחים הגרמנים ועוזריהם משאר העמים, בעבור שכל הקהל מתפלל לעילוי נשמותיהם. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור חיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימין, ונאמר אמן.
Amen. Thank you, Moshe, for leading that. I would just to close this off, I sent out a video. I'm not sure if everyone got a chance to see it, but it was a very inspirational story that I heard from my father, Shlita. He gave a shir in one of the communities here in Eretz Yisrael, and at the end of the shir, there was an elderly gentleman who came up to him and he said, Rabbi Goldvicht, I want to show you this letter that I wrote, and I want to tell you my story, and I want you to share this story with whoever it is you meet. So he shared this story in several shiurim. He shared this story with our family. This man, his name was Simcha Bereb Aaron Gussel. And he wrote down the name, the date of when he was born. And he said that he was taken into 5 different camps. And he was brought into Auschwitz on Yom Gimel, Yom Rishon of Chag Pesach of Taf Shin Gimel, the first day of Pesach 20, it was the 4th of the 20th, 1943. And he said this was the hardest thing. You know, they've already taken away my money. They've already taken away my job. They already took away I didn't know where my family was. He said, but when I went into Auschwitz, they took away the most basic of things, and they gave him the number. But he said, I was laying there the first night, and I was looking at the number that I got, and he comes from a Hasidic home, and he said, I saw that the number was 116990. And he said, they took away everything from me. They even took away the basic human dignity. I'm no longer even a name. I don't have a name, I just have a number. Then he said that he was laying there in the barracks and he started adding up the numerical value of the numbers on his hand. 116990 added up to the number 26. And he said the number 26, that's the number of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a Yud and a Hey, a Vav and a Hey adds up to the number 26. And it must be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with me. He's on my arm. And he says, Simeni kachotam al zroecha. He said this was like a sign that Hashem is with me. And whenever I felt despair and I felt I wasn't going to make it, so then I looked down at my number and I realized that Hashem is with me. And he said, Rabbi Goldvicht, the lesson is very clear. In life, people can take away almost anything from you. They can take away your parnasa. They can take away your freedom to move around, your freedom for anything. But there's one thing that people can't take away from you, and that's how you personally choose to look at the situation that you're in. And he said, for me, that's what saved me. He said, my name was Simcha. So I chose to look at the Simcha, that Hashem is with me. And that gave me the energy to go through the darkest gates of hell that anyone could ever imagine. And I'm here, and I've built a family in Eretz Yisrael, like many of you. And I try to give over that message of choosing to be positive, even in difficult situation. And I felt that was such a powerful lesson for us. I could speak for myself. My generation, like Rabbi Wein always says, we were born into a golden Medina, whether it's here in Eretz Yisrael or in Chutz La'aretz. And we were born with every possible, any necessity that a Jew needs. We were born into it. There were communities, there are yeshivas, we are riding on giants' shoulders. And now there's a little bit of a difficult situation. There's a big difficult situation for the entire world and specifically for the Jewish people. And I felt that on a day like today, it's important to highlight Simcha's story, the story of choosing, even when things are very, very difficult, to choose to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us even during the difficult times, even though we don't see it. And that itself is what gives us the chizuk, that itself gives us the hope to know that we're going to get through this and come out much more victorious. If anyone wants to share any, this is not a regular meetup. It's not just where we meet and then we, that it's a joyous meetup. It's more of a serious one. Again, we are going to continue our Yom Hashoa program tomorrow at 5 p.m. where Henry Israel is going to be, I will be there, but Henry Israel is going to host Yafa and introduce Yafa Silverberg. She is tonight. So we will be continuing with our Yom HaShoah programming tomorrow. If anyone wants to share a specific story or a specific message that speaks to them, if you lift your hand, or I see that Rabbi Karzan wants to. Yes, Rabbi Karzan.
I want to share with you two little very brief stories. One, visiting Yad Vashem a number of years ago, there's the Children's Memorial. We walk into this darkened room with little lights flickering, and all you hear are the names of young people, of the 1.5 million children that were killed, their name, their age, and where they come from. And after you're there for a little while, you walk out, the first thing that I thought of was, thank God, my name wasn't mentioned. I was not there at the time. Baruch Hashem, my family lived in America, and we had the zchut of living here and not being a part of the Shoah personally. But you go into a place like that, you can't come out the same person that you were when you went in. And my wife and I decided after that to go to visit the concentration camps in Europe. And we went to Auschwitz with a group of people, and I had the zchut of saying the Kaddish there. And we brought earth from Israel for the mass graves that we visited. We brought flags from Israel to put there and so forth. And we did everything that we could to make everyone aware of the fact that we're Jews, that we're alive, and that we have an obligation not only not to forget them, but to do something to keep their name alive, their names, their memories, and their families alive. And we've tried to do that all through the years. And I hope that all of us on this Yom HaShoah will have the zchut of feeling that we have now. We're alive, we're in Israel, we're in Yerushalayim, and God willing, we will do everything possible, our Kiddush Hashem, and those words, never again, will truly be part of the life that all of us will strive to make sure it never happen again. God bless all of us on this day of Yom HaShoah.
Thank you, Rabbi. David Hammer, you wanted to say something?
I would like to speak if I could. Could you see me?
Yes, we see you now.
Okay, thank you. 40 minutes ago, I lit the candle from my mother's yahrzeit, and it always hits me very hard. And it starts tonight and goes through tomorrow. And the thing that's interesting is, because many of you didn't know me when I was young, but I was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's where my mother lived also. And I lived actually until I was bar mitzvahed. And then many things came to me, and I ended up in New York at at the yeshiva. What was it? RJJ Yeshiva. And I lived with my aunt in Williamsburg. And I felt that I really slowly but surely developed all the things that I wanted to know. But I want you to know that mother started out, she was born in Harrisburg and she stayed in Harrisburg. My father came from from Poland, and they met each other and they got married, and I'm the only child. because I'm a schlepper. But that's besides the point. It's because it was the time when everything was very bad, meant with money and things. So there was one child in the family, that's it. And it just, everything came to me. And in fact, even starting blowing the shofar when I was 13 in Harrisburg for the big shul of Rabbi Silver, it was every time it was about 600 people that came. And this was my first beginning. And I kept going, and we're still going, I hope. And so this sets a lot of things to us when we come to this moment and this day. And I want to just thank you for letting us come and speak to you a bit and see how much you can get, because my mother came from almost a religious community, but she kept pulling it further in and further in and further in. And she became the head of the Girl Scouts of the Jewish Community Center. And they made her all kinds of parties and things, because she was always working on all these kinds of things. She even developed the whole ladies thing. So I just wanted to tell you, this is where we are, and this is where we're standing, and we're going back and going further ahead.
Amazing, David. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is a
Can I
unique.
go over?
Yes.
Can I just add one thing? There was a wonderful man in our shul, Professor Klein.
Yeah.
He was a physicist of note, and a professor. And he was a graduate of Auschwitz University. And he didn't talk about it much, but there were times that he confided in me, spoke about things. And he said, there were many, many Jews in the concentration camp. He said that gave up hope. His expression was they went to the wire, meaning there was a barbed wire, electrified or fence around the camp. And that was the way to commit suicide. You went and touched the wire, you were electrocuted, and it was over. He said that many people went to the wire. He said, but I didn't go to the wire, he said, because I remembered Rabbi Akiva. And I remembered everything that I had been taught in the yeshiva. And he said, therefore, I had a different view of things. I had a different take. And that's what enabled me to survive. He said, and then I got out, I got married, I have a wonderful family of generations, because I never went to the wire, because I remembered Rabbi Akiva. So I thought to myself, I had a similar experience with when I was the head of the OU in America. I think it was 1973 or 74, before any of you were born. So we were experimenting in the OU and trying to develop a pen that would hold the animal during the shechita. So in order to meet the federal requirements for humane slaughter. So we developed such a pen for large animals, for steers and cows, etc. But we were trying to develop one for sheep and lamb as well. And I was informed that there was a Department of Animal Husbandry at the University of Connecticut that was working on such a pen. And that if I made an appointment, they'd show it to me, and we'd see if it would be feasible to install in the kosher slaughtering plants. So one morning I got up and I took our chief shochet Rabbi Zweigenhoff, the blessed memory. And we drove up there. And the young man that was developing this, it was his PhD, was a Jew, but he was the most estranged Jew that you ever met. He knew absolutely nothing. He knew there was such thing as kosher, but he thought that kosher means that you didn't steal it, which it means that as well, but that wasn't its technical meaning. And so he was going to show the pen, and they had a sheep there that the shochet was going to slaughter, and we'd see if it would work. So the shochet naturally he took off his suit and he put on the white coveralls and the apron. And as he took off his shirt, there were numbers on his arm because Zweigenhoff was also there. And as he took off his shirt, he had this big telescope and all his tzitzis flying around. So the young man turned to me and he said, what's that? What's that on his arm? And what are those strings that he's wearing? I wasn't in such a happy mood that day, so I said to him, you know, if you knew what those strings were, you'd know what the numbers are too. And I think that that pretty much sums it up. And our job is to concentrate on the strings, no matter what the numbers are. And I think that that's why Yom Hashoa has, or should have, special meaning for us, because we're the strings. The strings are the weapon against the numbers. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi Wein. Very powerful story, and it always comes together. Those two things always come together. Is there anybody who wants to share closing remarks before we close it off? Moshe?
Yes, this is something that I have to share with Rabbi Wein because he had the same experience. But for me, that was an awakening or an opening of the eyes at the age of 10 in the Yeshurun synagogue. Rav Herzog Zitzal walked up and gave a very, very tough speech. Not a tough speech, but actually a warning speech. That was after he went through the various locales, concentration camps in Europe, of course, after the liberation. And that also included a visit to the Pope. And he was pleading for the release of the children that they were put in under his custody. And the answer was not very positive. In fact, it was negative. And that at the time kind of brought across to a 10-year-old boy something that beforehand we were kind of pretty occupied here with our own problems already in Israel with trying to get the immigrants coming here. So that was the main lesson of what really transpired in World War II.
Wow, very powerful. Thank you, Moshe. Very obviously reminds us of Rabbi Wein's famous story of Rav Herzog visiting the yeshiva in America and what inspired him very, very much. If there is anybody who wants to add a few words, otherwise we're just gonna say a quiet good evening and say yes, Pessy. I see that you are. Pessy, you're on.
Okay.
Pessy Krausz.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much, all of you, and I'd like to thank Moshe, especially for his Kel Malei Rachamim. During his Kel Malei Rachamim, I have here the 12 members of my family who did not survive. my grandparents, my aunts, my cousins, and I was fortunate to be able to say their names as Moshe was reciting, and I also have my own copy of Kel Malei Rachamim. Now, I think all the inspirational messages that I've heard today reinforce the role of my grandmother, who I never knew, called Malka Langerman. And I'd like to take this opportunity just to tell you that during the Shoah, in about 1938, it was living in Germany, in Dresden, across the road, and she was in charge. They had, my grandfather and my grandmother had a very large menswear store with 3 floors. My grandfather was known actually by many people for his Zmirot and for his learning, including Dr. Joseph Burg, who was a regular visitor when he went around Europe in their home and stayed there. Now, there was a cousin across the road called Lippe Ehrlich. He had not married and he had a very small store. And when the Nazi stormtroopers came at night and tried to take the goods out of people's stores, they were able to take his goods away because he had a small store. My grandmother then, keeping an eye on things, had a large store well protected, used to smuggle across the road menswear clothes so that my cousin Lippe Ehrlich would have his parnossa. She was the head of the Gemach in Dresden, in Germany. There was never a bride, a chatan, who went without. She made sure that they had a full trousseau, whatever was needed. And unfortunately, my mother, I never saw my mother really laugh. She was very talented and she spoke many languages, which saved our lives. When we got to Dunkirk, I think some people know the story of how she persuaded one of the British officers to get us onto one of the boats with the British soldiers who were being evacuated from Dunkirk by holding a gun to my head. I was a little kid on my father's shoulders running to Dunkirk. I still remember nodding on his hat and saying to the German officer, she pulled the gun out of his holster when he refused to take us, and she said, if you do not take us, I shoot my child, my husband, and myself before your eyes. Well, of course, he had no option. He pushed us into a little boat. But the last time that this brave mother of mine saw her father was when he was thrown off a bus together with my grandma, this elderly Jew with a beard. He had left his tefillin on the bus. So today, when my grandchildren and great-grandchildren are blessed with reaching the stage of their bar mitzvah, whatever, I make sure I and my late husband Neville would give them tefillin. So it's not just the strings here, there are strings everywhere, and we have our heartstrings, and I think we are building up from our, I love seeing everybody's room, by the way, all live in such beautiful lounges and everything. We're building up Am Yisrael one way or another, string by string, note by note, together. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Pessy, for sharing that very, very inspirational and uplifting story of your family. Definitely connected those strings and touched our heartstrings. Okay, we would like to say thank you very, very much. Thank you to the Rav. Thank you to Reb Chaim Wein and his family for hosting the Rav and facilitating this. Just the final message is tomorrow at 5 p.m. we have our guest speaker. That's Yafa Silberger, Silverberg. On Wednesday, 5 p.m., I'm going to give a Parsha Shir. Thursday, 5 p.m. is Rabbi Wein's Parsha Shir. And then we're going to meet again on Erev Shabbos Kodesh at 5 for pre-Shabbos Chizuk. And a big thank you to each and every one of you for coming, for joining us on this special day, on this special program, this late at night. We really, really appreciate it. We should have Besoros Tovos. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is the siren for a moment of silence here in Eretz Yisrael. And we will rejoin again at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Good evening, everybody.
Be well, everybody. B'atzlacha.
Toda Rabah. You as well.
חודש טוב, שבוע טוב.